Hello and welcome to the Bike Show, the place for you to catch up with the latest news and views of all things motorcycling from around the world and of course in South Africa. I am unfortunately locked down in France without any bikes to ride, and so I'm very jealous of Don, who has headed to the Drakensberg to ride KTM's latest adventure bikes, the 890 and 1290. He'll be reporting back on those in next week's episode. You may remember last week I mentioned KTM's new Super Duke 1290 RR, a racier version of the already mental Super Duke. The first double R in orange history. It keeps the same 180 horsepower V-twin but adds lots of lightness, some fancier electronics and a single seat to make the ultimate track day weapon. I applauded but said you shouldn't worry about getting it because really you can't use the extra chassis performance unless you're a professional racer, and it might even be worse on the road, and you lose the passenger seat. It turns out you could only worry for about an hour anyway, because that's how long it took for the limited run of 500 to sell out, so it seems the orange people really are a hardcore lot. Staying with petrol power and a European manufacturer, let's talk Triumph, and in particular its update for the Scrambler 1200. There's 3 models now, and the news is essentially about an evolution of the models, no major improvements. You've got the XC, which is the sort of base model, a bit more road-oriented, though still a capable off-road machine as well. Then there's the XE, which is the full-on off-road version, and this year there's a Steve McQueen limited edition special. Well, not that limited, because there will be 1,000 of them. They've all basically got the same engine that has now been updated for Euro 5 compliance, which in theory should strangle the performance a bit, but it hasn't. There's still 89 horsepower and 110 newton meters being pumped out of the 1200cc parallel twin. All the models also get updated TFT displays that are, as always seems to be the case with Triumphs, very good looking and easy to use. Other standard or optional equipment, dependent on the model, includes cruise control, keyless ignition, USB charging point under the seat, and integrated app functions that mean you can control your phone through the dash, or your music, or your navigation, and even operate your GoPro camera. The XE model gets longer travel suspension than the XC and an extra pro off-road riding mode because with an IMU there's cornering traction control as well. There's also some premium finishes like gold-coloured forks, hand guards, anodised risers for the handlebar, that sort of thing. And then there's the Steve McQueen special that celebrates the link with the coolest Hollywood actor of all time. He was excellent in a race car, but his passion was actually racing off-road bikes, and he used to enter tough events like the Baja Desert Race under an assumed name so he could do it anonymously, working on his own bike in the process. Can you imagine someone like Tom Cruise roughing it like that? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, McQueen was properly tasty off-road and he loved it. He famously performed a jump over barbed wire fencing for the classic World War II film The Great Escape. Although that was meant to represent a stolen German bike, it was in fact a modified Triumph. This model, with its unique paint job, seat, plaque and paperwork, celebrates that link. Like the limited edition Super Duke I mentioned earlier, it will probably sell out very quickly, so better not dither if you fancy one. Right, on to the electric news, which I have to say this week is very impressive indeed. And I say that because instead of the usual wild claims and some renderings of what the bike will look like once the money has been raised and the engineers recruited, a factory built and the technology invented to make it all possible, this bike actually exists. At least one prototype has been built already. It runs, and not only in a straight line, and it has one of the coolest chassis setups you've ever seen. You will want one. Have you noticed the major new development yet? Yep, that is a hubless rear wheel arrangement you're looking at. That's some weird engineering right there. In fact, to paraphrase legendary sci-fi writer Arthur C. Clarke, it is a technology that my very small brain cannot hope to understand, and so it is effectively magic. The Verge TS has been designed and built in Finland, where they apparently use magic in their factory. The bike originally broke cover as the usual render in 2018, but 3 years later it is very real. And it seems that, magically, they have incorporated the electric motor into the rear rim. Don't think that means it has to be a small and weedy motor though, because it isn't. The 80 kilowatt unit will apparently kick out a respectable 110 horsepower or so, but the headline figure is the claimed torque, which is, let me just check this number again. Yeah, 1,000 Newton meters. A superbike might give you a very entertaining 120 Newton meters, so 1,000 Newton meters may actually peel your skin off. City range should be 300 kilometers, highway range 200 k's or so, and it can use the fast DC charging system that bikes like the Energica and Livewire from Harley already use, so it will be competitively practical too. Price is expected to be about 400 to 450,000 rand, which is actually a bit cheaper than the Livewire. If you want one for delivery next year, you need to whack down 35,000 rand deposit in a hurry.